All right. For the audience that doesn't know you, feel free to introduce yourself.
Hey, how's it going? My name's Connor. I've been a creator on the internet for almost 10 years at this point. I get around 200 million views a month across platforms. I have both my YouTube plaques behind me, but I can't go and get them right now. I probably should have put them behind me on this interview. I currently run a agency that helps businesses do social media correctly and actually reach customers. And I also like dogs.
So with that being said, and this is the second time you're on the show, so let's just get into it, right? Let's say you have 0 followers, 0 friends. You're starting from ground fucking zero, right?
Yeah.
You are going from outcast to content creator, right? How do you get to 10,000 followers? Because I think that's like where you start to become a content creator.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, first thing that I tell everyone is like right now, if you're going to have growth, it's probably going to be through short form content. You're going to have probably the best audience if you have long form. So don't doing long YouTube videos if you do shorts. But definitely if you're growing and you're kind of more or less starting from zero, so you don't have that kind of base level of friends, followers, connections. I would pick a lane for content. Definitely if you have variation, your videos might get some viewership, but people will be really confused when it comes to actually following you. They might think, why am I following him or her, right? Because what am I going to follow? There's so much variation, so much content. So I would pick a lane / niche, and then I would just post a lot of short form video content. And if a video does well, double down and try and see why.
So I'm going to skip ahead a few questions because this actually brings up a good point. So there's a phenomenon I've noticed amongst a lot of content creators where they will create a video and they'll have like a generally pretty viral series even off of like off of one template, but they end up like totally falling off, and I'll check on them like a year later or like 3 months later, and they're still doing the same thing and they haven't changed. And there's so many content creators that I feel like this happens to. So at what point is something like a lost cause? When should you stop doing the format, right?
Yeah. So I think, when it comes to social media, the problem of it's almost like a video series versus a brand, where you could become very popular for a video series, but you really struggle to have any breakouts beyond that. And look, that's very common. In fact, most people will start with a breakout series and then they try and do variation and then they fail. I think the ways not to do it is once you have that series that has really taken off, whether it be one exact type of video, a style of video, whatever you want to do there, don't immediately cut off that series that works and do different content, right? I've seen too many people have something that works and then think, well, I don't want to get pigeonholed, so I'm going to do other things. Well, it works and your audience like that, and you're more or less back to square one. I've also seen people only do one thing. And I think I've fallen more into this category because, if I see something that's proven success and I can iterate on it, then I'll want to do it. But the problem is that, if you're only going to do this, eventually it's not going to be as relevant for most people, right? I mean, you got people that if your type of content is like a challenge or something, that's different because there's plenty of different challenge content. But if the only thing you do challenges and the only challenge you do is like a certain type of challenge, maybe I don't know, I'm trying to think of some challenge on YouTube right now, but maybe counting to a certain number, like counting to 100,000 or something. I don't know. It's kind of dumb, but it's like if you only do challenges in that vertical of just counting, it's eventually not going to be interesting, right? So you're going to want to mix the two. And you're going to want to, once you have something that hits, you're going to want to mix in variation while keeping your main form of content or your standard form that works. You want to keep doubling down on that, but mix in variation. And you can also be a little bit more creative when it comes to building more of a brand than like one series of content that you're good at. Let's say you have you post an Instagram Reels and you have a series that kills. Well, you can post in your story something that's totally unrelated that shows you. Because that story post you don't have to worry about reaching new people with your story. You're just reaching your followers already. So that's an opportunity where you don't give up the loss of not being able to post that viral content. And then 2, you're able to still reach those people.
So this brings up another question. So when we're talking about things that work, unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, I should say, that a lot of the things that work when it comes to content are controversial, pieces of content, right? And a creator that I've developed kind of a friendship with was Life and Scars, who game is game. So with him, his content is generally considered pretty controversial, I guess, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit, it's not content that you would show your grandmother, right?
Yeah.
So with that being said, what's the difference between, like, at what point is it too controversial, right? At what point is making a video too controversial? And at what point is it just making content? At what point does it just make you like a bad person?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if this is necessarily my place to speak. I think I'm fairly uncontroversial, at least with my content. I think it's something where you also have to think about, what are you going to do with this? Like, are you making content to build a business around it? Like, what are you doing with this traffic? I also think it's important to know that there's a lot of popular creators who have had controversy, but very few have gained a really successful audience by only being controversial. So your big creators, right, they have controversy. Like Mr. Beast was in the news for controversy, which I think is kind of the internet being a little crazy, but he isn't popular because of the controversy. He's popular because of the content style. So I think you have to think a little bit of, like, for a recurring audience, you need something that is fairly non-controversial. It's okay if you get in some controversy if it's not your fault, right? It's sometimes you get dragged into things, it just happens. But I don't really think it's easy to build an audience off a controversy. You can get exposure, but exposure is a one-time thing and usually not that valuable. It's the recurring audience that's valuable.
So I think whenever I think of, like, controversial people that became famous and they, like, it really stuck. Like, I'm not talking about, like, the people that fell off from after the controversy, which I forget, like, which I guess says something about those people. But the only person I can really think of that got famous truly off of controversy was Danielle Bergoli, who was Cash Me Outside Girl.
Right.
She's the only person, and, well, I was gonna say, and maybe Camila Araujo and, like, the OnlyFans models. Like, I can maybe think of those two.
Yeah.
But, like, my stance as to why, like, I wonder what your stance is. Like, why do those people stay relevant in spite of the fact that they're, like, not good people, like, in the traditional sense, not people that are society values as, like, hard workers or whatever.
Yeah. I think you also have to look at the business model. I'm going to say for most people, the business model doesn't work. Catch Me Outside Girl, that's that's kind of a unique case. She's, I think, an exception to the rule. When it comes to the OF content creators, which they do farm, like, controversy, they are strictly trying to get impressions to their page because you don't need brand loyalty or brand trust to convert for what they're selling. It's more so just like, do you want this product? Yes or no? And I don't really care how you got here. So I think they're in a unique situation where I don't think they're going to have the strongest audience, but that doesn't mean that they can't convert something with that traffic. So I think there's a rare occasion where it works for the business model, just because raw traffic, if whatever you're selling is, like, raw traffic, will convert to sales at a fairly good rate, and it doesn't matter your recurring customer, it doesn't matter about your brand aesthetics, then yes. I'm going to say most business models, it matters how people see you. Or it's like, if you have an ad and 1,000 people go to it because they're upset at you versus 1,000 people are interested in what you provide, you're going to just have a very different experience.
So let's talk about business. So let's say you want to promote something, anything. It doesn't matter really what it is. Well, okay, maybe it does, but let's just say you want to promote something, right? How do you promote that? How would you go about promoting it?
Yeah. So really the model that I focus on, too many businesses think that they're doing social media. It's almost like a checkbox that they'll do, where they're like, okay, well, we're going to post on there. We've been posting, so great. And they think social media is a great way to kind of stay in front of customers who already know who they are. And I'm like, well, that is something you can do, but if you do it correctly, it can actually be a way to get new leads. And simply just the framework of, like, if you have a product or service, you probably have some kind of interesting information around it. So if you're a financial advisor, you manage people's money, which means you know a lot about the market. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at what you sell, service, product, whatever it is, figure out, okay, what is the field, like, tangential to it? What is information that's around it? So if you sell supplements, for example, make videos about the studies around the supplements. Like, if you have an active ingredient, make a video on that active ingredient. make a video on the lifestyle or exercises or something that someone who is building that product would also get value from. And once you've kind of figured out what that content would be, so if you're a financial advisor managing money, make a video on the stock market, make it more specific than that, but generally, then what you want to do is you want to make sure that every video you make is providing value in a way that people can consume it, get something from it, and not have to buy your product to get something from it. So if I'm interested in health and I see, let's say you're selling a supplement and you make a video on health that's maybe about an active ingredient in your product or just like a health protocol or something, I need to be able to watch that video and get some information that I find valuable without buying your product. And if you can pull that off, then all of a sudden this relationship is you're no longer advertising to people. You're giving them what they want and they can choose to get more from you. And that's the relationship that I think works the best online right now.
So we spoke a little bit before about getting to 10,000 followers, right? What about 10,000 to 100K and so on? Because I feel like that's a little bit of a different category.
Yeah, so I think the 0 to 10 is the hardest, and you might need the most luck. 10 to 100, it might take you more time, but you need less luck. And what I mean by that is, like, once you have 10,000 followers, you have a little bit of a built-up audience. You have a repeatable content formula, if not multiple, that tend to perform. From 0 to 100, you're kind of throwing stuff and see what sticks, right? It's something where you're doing a lot of testing and iteration and trying to get a breakout video to get you a bit of an audience. From 10 to 100, it's really just, okay, well, I know I'm getting 5,000 followers a month, which is good, right? Nothing wrong with that. Okay, well, if I'm getting 5,000 followers a month and I want 100,000 more followers, well, then, yeah, it's going to take me over a year to get this done, right? And that's just something where it's like, okay, there's going to be repetition. The good thing, though, is that social media growth is normally not super linear, meaning if you're getting 5,000 followers a month and you keep on doing it correctly, there might be a point where it turns like that. You have to be okay with it taking a year to get that 100,000. You have to be okay with that. And that's why I really believe in almost having a business model around your content. So someone who is only a social media influencer, if they have 100,000 followers, they might be able to sell brand ads for $500, $1,000 per post, and they're not really going to get a lot of brand traffic. But someone who has 100,000 followers and they're selling supplements, they might be able to ship $30,000 worth of supplements if those 100,000 followers are really targeted. So I think when people are looking to make money on social media, I think you should think, okay, I can do things that will get people to look at my content. Now I got to think to myself, what is the value of my eyeballs? What audience am I going for? If it's broad entertainment, you're getting paid on YouTube long form like $3 to $4 per 1,000 views. That's at like the high end of what you're getting paid. YouTube Shorts, you're getting paid like 10 cents per 1,000 views, which is okay, but you need so much viewership to make any money at all. While if you had 10,000 people checking out one of your products and all those people were potential buyers, you could make a lot of money. While 10,000 views just for the sake of entertainment, you're going to make nothing, right? You're going to make $200 on YouTube Shorts, which is cool, but it's not something that can sustain you, right?
This leads into my next question, which is how do you make money off the content? How do you really like profit off this? Because we all see the I Show Speeds of the world who buy a Lamborghini and the Eden Rosses. So how do you make, not necessarily that kind of money, but just money in general making content?
Yeah. Well, so the first round is just direct monetization through the platform. And this is more so what the platform's paying you. So if you're a YouTuber, for your long videos, you'll get anywhere from $1 to $10 per 1,000 views, probably in the 2 to 5 range. So if you have 1 million views on a long video, you might get anywhere from like $2,000 to $5,000 for that, if not more. If it's a really long video, it might be more. But getting 1 million views on a long video is really hard. Shorts, Instagram doesn't really pay you. TikTok doesn't really pay you. YouTube Shorts pays you about 10. YouTube Shorts and Facebook pay you about 10 cents per 1,000 views. So you're not really making that much, right? For 10,000 views, you're getting about, I think I said $200. That's totally wrong. You're getting about $1. It's really low. So the second form monetization as you get a stronger audience, you're going to be able to do more kind of like direct monetization, whether that be subscriber only content, whether that means like being a Twitch subscriber, or whether that means different types of subscriber only content. So if you can sell something directly to your audience, that will always be the best tool to monetize in a lot of cases. And that's why I always push, like saying, if you have a business wrapped around your content, then you're going to make significantly more money than anyone else. I think brand deals, once again, you're selling directly to your audience. If your audience is big enough, you can just make a lot. You can just make a lot of money. The Aiden Ross's iShow Speeds of the world do make millions of dollars, partially just because their audience is so large. But I'm pretty convinced that if they had a business wrapped around what they were doing and like they ran like a traditional business, I mean, you see things like Prime by, Logan Paul, KSI, right? That has a huge valuation. That's direct. I mean, they don't cash out of that. They're equity holders, but they're making significantly more, right? Because they're able to funnel that audience to a relevant business. But obviously, if your audience is big enough, you can still make a lot of money. Look at Speed, look at Aiden Ross, of course.
So with that being said, we got to talk about the different platforms, right? Like every platform is a little bit different now, right? And I think there's even jokes about it where it's like, Instagram commenters versus TikTok commenters versus YouTube commenters. And I remember I even saw one video one time where I don't know what it was, but it was like a very YouTube shorty type video.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone on Instagram was like, this belongs to YouTube Shorts. Don't put this on this platform. Like everyone, but you can tell the difference between YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels, which I think that's really interesting. That in theory, like all that going viral should mean is just people like content. People literally like the content. They share the content. They're just watching the content. That's all it means. So how can you tell, like, why did some things go viral on some platforms if on paper it's just based off human interest?
Yeah. So I think different platforms, well, the truth is every platform has every demographic on it. But I will say different platforms they can tend to have more of a certain type of demographic. YouTube Shorts is younger. So you're going to have more content that is less funny to an adult, right? This belongs on YouTube Shorts basically means I'm too old to find this entertaining, give or take, right? Snapchat Spotlight is going to have sloppier content because it's not as evolved, right? And people don't post enough on it. So anything is kind of clickbaity or slop or whatever will do better. That might improve over time if they double down on getting creators on Spotlight and the algorithm gets better. Instagram Reels definitely has an older audience, but not like an old audience. I think Facebook Reels, it's almost like if your audience is too young, content's going to be kind of slop. If it's like kind of our age and a little bit older, it's going to be good. And then if it's like 60 plus Facebook stuff, it's also going to be slop, right? So it's almost like a little bit of an arc there.
Well, I would say, because I've had some I've had some videos go viral on different platforms. Nothing crazy. We can't all have 1 million followers on Instagram. I'm kidding. So with me, for example, I made a video where I asked like these two very tall girls at my school, and I had them next to me on TikTok, and I said like, "Oh, what's your biggest red flag in a guy?" And they both said, "Oh, when they're shorter than us." And and then it panned to a guy who was like 5'4", right? Yeah. As a joke, and everyone commented, and that got like 80,000 views. Nothing crazy, but Instagram I got like 10,000 views, give or take. But then I post it on YouTube and it gets like 1,000 if even views. So a video like that, I think I kind of get what you're. I get what you're saying, because like I guess teenagers would be more into that kind of content, or like slightly older people. But then where does TikTok fall in that? Is it older audiences? Like, is it also teenagers?
So TikTok's probably also a little bit younger. But one thing I will say is like, you can have a good video, and just because it doesn't blow up on every platform doesn't mean that it doesn't have viral potential on each platform, right? I mean, I've had plenty of videos that I literally posted the same video on TikTok as I did Instagram, and my Instagram does significantly better, right? But also it's the converse sometimes. Like I posted a video on TikTok that got 20 million views in like 2 days, and it did fine on Instagram, right? So it's the exact same video. So sometimes these platforms, they test your video by promoting it to like a sample group. And sometimes the sample group that they choose for one video, it's like, it's the sample group isn't as like interested in your video, even though the big population is interested in your video. So in kind of more layman's terms, sometimes the video just doesn't hit. And if you posted it again, like at a later point, it might actually hit. So I think that might be closer to a fluke if the video did well on other platforms, and it just sometimes doesn't hit on every platform.
So one thing that I do find interesting is clipping, right? So I have become well, I don't want to say victim. I don't know what the right word would be, but I have become, I guess, a subject of clipping, right? Because I have a podcast and there's content creators that come on our podcast. And there was a video that actually went viral without me knowing it, of me, which I found kind of funny. And I only knew because my friend sent me that video. And it was like, George, you made the TikTok algorithm. And it was like the video of me in Life and Scars. But anyways, my question would be, how do you create content that warrants people to clip? Because I notice a lot of clipping channels clip the same things. Like Andrew Tate, for example, it's the same fucking video of Andrew Tate like 50,000 times on 50,000 different videos. Yeah. They all go viral and on the different channels and different things, right? So what is clippable content, right? Like, I think it's controversial content. I think that's what it is. But the video I was in wasn't controversial, right? I don't even know. I think it was just a sad story. So
I think clippable content, once again, is good content, right? If it's something, it doesn't have to be necessarily controversial. I mean, there's clips of like people giving life advice and it's motivational. There's clips of just other things that are entertaining. The reason why some people are clipped so often, sometimes they pay agencies to run clip channels to clip them. So it's not even fans doing it. Sometimes they'll have financial incentives for fans to clip. Sometimes fans know that certain videos will do well and they sign up for monetization programs on platforms and try and make money off content that's already proven to do well. So a lot of that clipping of people is a lot less organic than it seems. You brought up Andrew Tate. He blew up in, 2 weeks like that. And partially was because he had an agency. He spent money on having hundreds of these accounts built to clip him and post him. And then he had a bounty. So then people start naturally doing it after that fact, right? So it's harder to have other people clip you. And a lot of times there will be a coordinated effort of people paying for that to happen. But really, once again, it's just like, if it's a good video, it's a good video. It's doesn't really matter beyond that.
So another question, and this kind of goes back to an earlier subject, was when we're talking about OnlyFans models, one thing I always kind of wondered was two things. How do these models seem to get in contact with the most famous content creators, right? People that like for example, I don't know, like you can think of like, I don't know, like just think of the Sophie Rains of the world, the Julia Filippos, right? They go from being like kind of, I don't want to say nobodies, but not being particularly known, all the way to all of a sudden just being on a stream with Aiden Ross, Kai Cenat, or people like that.
Yeah.
Number one. And number two, they seem to post content that really isn't that viral worthy. I don't, it's just like them dancing, whatever. Is it just because they're a hot girl? Like, I feel like that's really the only reason why. And I hate to say it, but it is true. Like, I think that's the only reason.
I think
how do they get in content? And just to finish it, just how do they get in contact with those content creators?
It's a lot of really smart tactical management plays behind the scenes. Like, you see certain girls appear in a billion meme pages. That wasn't organic. Those meme pages are all being paid to do it. And it's all in coordination. So most of the time, and sometimes people that run OF content will manage themselves, but quite often it's people who are already connected in the industry. So it'll be like, okay, well, I know we're going to post this type of content on your page. We're going to pay these meme pages to promote your content, or the Twitter pages to promote your content. And we're also going to strike a deal to get you on the stream. And then with all that traffic that we either paid for or through connections got you on, we're going to make sure your page is optimized to reach as many people as possible. So it's not as if that they're doing something so noteworthy. I mean, I think that they're doing everything correctly for their niche, right? The ones that are successful, and different niches have different type of content that succeeds. I also think that there's a ton of work behind the scenes that is usually overlooked. And because whenever someone like blows up overnight, it's usually not true, unless it's like a YouTube video that blows up. That's possible. But if someone just appears with every other big creator out of nowhere, it's never out of nowhere. That never happens, right? It's always very intentional moves behind the scenes.
So, I mean, like beyond OnlyFans models, meme pages, right? Meme pages, I don't think people like, maybe that's just because I know people like, you and other people that run content, right? And like content agencies. The one thing I know for a fact is that meme pages are insane. They are a fucking mafia, right? In the sense that if you want to go become famous for anything, if you know the right people that run meme pages, or you run a meme page yourself, you can make anybody go famous, including yourself, right? And I wonder, I don't think you would know this off the top of your head, but how did that come about? And how do they work as a business model?
A lot of them you can message for their prices, and the prices are usually not that bad. I actually know someone who's moved into the app space, but used to run one of the big like million follower meme pages. And back in 2018, TikTok, when it had merged from Musical.ly and TikTok bought Musical.ly, and in 2018 they were trying to really blow up. And one of the methodologies they used, they actually paid these meme pages to post TikToks with a watermark. So this is before Instagram knew to like downrank videos with watermarks, as before it even came out. So yeah, it's a whole network. A lot of these pages are ran by the same person or organization, so there's a lot less variation than you'd think. But also the prices are usually not as bad as you think, especially if you go to a page with a couple 100,000 followers. You're going to get a better price than if you went to an influencer, because no brands are trying to partner with meme pages. There's no brand value to them, right? Some like dropshipping type products might do that, but it's really, so you can get a decent amount of exposure pretty cheap, but I will say it's helpful in the process of blowing someone up, because you just pour more fuel onto the fire. But I don't think meme page is posting you enough, and you'll run out of money before it converts into anything.
Interesting. Okay. No, because I've heard from several people that like when it comes to like whether, obviously when it comes to quick fame, OnlyFans models are always like the D1 example, but there are other creators like, you get Sketch, you get like, who became very famous very quickly. Kai Cenat, not so much. I think he was already doing stuff, but people that like, they went from being like, not that known, maybe a little bit, to like all the way over here, the most known people. A lot of times meme pages, like Talk to a Girl, when it comes to like meme pages, those definitely had a play. Because if you think about it, what she said was not that interesting or even that catchy.
Yeah.
I think it had a lot to do with meme pages. So, I do feel like it's an interesting subject. And the crazy part is people don't really know about it. Like, people don't know like how much money these people are making either, which I feel like if they did, it would be a lot bigger of a business model. And I'm shocked that nobody does. But yeah. So then I guess that would lead me to my next question. After running an agency, right, who was your most successful client?
Yeah. So first thing is like, we have to like think about how we quantify success, right? Because if we quantify success just in like total viewership, might be missing the mark. Just because for me, it's like I reach 200 million people a month, but I'm making fine money, right? But it's nothing compared to if a business gets, the right business gets 100,000 views a month, they might make 3x that I'm making on my 200 million. So that's the first thing I always have to go into these calls. I have to be like, all right, right. Success is going to be quantified by the number of people that are relevant to your niche that view your page. So success for someone might be 50 or 100,000 views a month, because they're all coming from like qualified investors. The value of that, like an advertising spend, would be tens of thousands of dollars, right? So I would say success is, one, absolutely blowing up their baseline. So a lot of these companies are not doing great. So the first month, we're always doing like 10,000% increase, right? Right off the bat, easy, right? And then really the success ones are the ones that are having more people come back, right? So we blow them up to 10,000% to get them on track. And then it's like, can we keep like, you go, and then can we just keep gradually going up? Can we get people coming back to check out more videos and eventually convert, right? Because there's some clients that we have that if they get one customer, that one customer to them might be worth $500,000. That's the difference, right? I get 200 million views, but none of my views will ever be worth that much, right? But for them, even if they get 10,000 views, if one of those views, right, is the right person, then they could have just made $500,000, right? So success in this kind of agent, in this world, is very hard to, it's different to quantify, right? That's all I'll say.
So this is now a personal question about being a commodity.
Sorry, can you say that again? You cut out the question.
No, sorry, yeah. What's the funniest or best fan interaction that you've had?
This isn't a direct experience, but I think it's probably my favorite. One of my friends in college, he went to India and to meet his cousin, or to see his cousin, and his cousin was sitting on the couch and he was playing a video, and it was one of my videos, and my friend is like, oh, I know that guy, and his cousin's like, okay, yeah, right. And then he pulls out a photo with me and him, and it's probably one of the worst photos of me ever. I'm not even gonna describe it. Not like incriminating or anything, but it's just like I'm not in my finest, right? And the little cousin is like, there's no way, like he just freaks out over it, which I just thought was so fun, because like that guy now is probably one of my closest friends, but at the time this happened, I like just met him and I knew him for about a month or something. So it was a pretty funny way to almost like start the friendship.
So then here's another question, and I've asked this question to a lot of different people. What's the craziest offer you've gotten? And I've heard some crazy things from even like very small creators.
Like from fans?
Not necessarily. It could be from fans. Let's start with fans. How about from fans first?
Well, I think especially back in the days when I was more engaged with my community, I feel like I've gotten a little bit too old to be as into the internet thing as I was before. I like the game. I mean, people would just do a lot of work in Discord and they'd love it, and they would spend a lot of hours. I guess like craziest offer, I don't know if I'm answering that right, but they would offer up all this time and they would do it and be great. And I think, yeah, it's just like I'm just like another person, but sometimes it feels like, wow, all these like followers, whatever, they're willing to do a ton, where I'm like, I wouldn't be willing to do this for some random person. But also maybe when I was 14, I'd be willing to do that for a YouTuber as well. I think I probably would. But yeah, that's the answer to the fan question.
What about craziest DM you've gotten from a fan?
I don't really check my DMs. I'm very filtered with that. I think that's the best piece of advice. Don't search up your name and don't read your DMs too much, just because we really are hardwired to take in the opinions of one person. I mean, it's from back in the day, right? If you were, in a tribe and you relied on them for food, water, shelter, protection, and a couple people, maybe only a few people didn't like you, that was a huge warning sign, right? Huge warning sign, because if they were able to convince other people of that too, you get kicked out of the tribe and die. So we still have some hardwiring of like, even if like a small percentage doesn't like you, that's a huge red flag. Well, on the internet, if you have 100,000 people like you and then you read one bad comment, the first years of doing this, you take it and you're like, oh shoot. But then you kind of learn that like, really doesn't matter. It's probably some, no disrespect, but 4-year-old on their iPad, right? Just typing stuff. Or even if it isn't, like, this person doesn't know you. They know a fraction of you, because you only put out a character and then they only see for a fraction of that. It's not really a comment on you. And I think you just learn to kind of power through that. But one piece of advice I would have is don't check your DMs too much, especially maybe glance at them for anything interesting, and don't search up your name too much.
What's the craziest offer you've gotten from a brand?
From a brand, I'll be honest. Like, I wish I had like a crazier story of like a huge dollar amount. My audience has never really been that appealing to brands. A lot of I've worked with Instagram. I think that's the coolest one. And, that was really cool. and they posted me on their page. So I think that was probably the most interesting. But honestly, I don't, especially like YouTube focused, my audience is younger and they're passive because they're listening to my stories. They're not really engaging. So I haven't had crazy brands. I mean, I work with Manscaped, which was fun. Because that was like a funny, I got a t-shirt and everything, and I wore it to like a football game once because I thought it was funny. But I don't know, I don't have a crazy brand story there.
Fair enough. Anything else you would want to touch on? Like anything you want to touch on, anything you want to talk about, or?
Yeah, I guess I can kind of just say a couple words to kind of wrap up. Kind of the focus of this podcast was kind of social media and growth, and if people want to do it. I would say now is a unique opportunity with short form videos that anyone can post a video and get a lot of views. And by a lot of views, I could mean 10,000. And 10,000 views might be the start of what you're doing. I started on YouTube in 2016, March 2016, March of 2016, right? And the only thing you could do was long videos. And long videos, you could still get a video to hit off, but it was significantly harder. And it took years and years and years and years. And now we're in an era where you can have one video take off and you can have your first 3,000 followers overnight. So that means that there's more competition, but there's also a lot more opportunity. So if you're going to take one thing away from this podcast, it would be start posting. Don't keep editing your posts and want the best thing. Post what you're doing and you'll get feedback from how well it performs.
All right,
cool.
I think that's a good place to end off. Is there any final words otherwise to say to the audience? Any advice for young people?
I would say, I guess like the final thing is like, you're going to get a little bit of flack for posting on social, but it's worth it, right? It's either something you're going to do for a little bit, then you stop, and then you're like, okay, well, I tried, right? If you can tell people, even if you fail, if you can tell people that you tried, I will always respect someone more who tried and it didn't work out than someone who doesn't try because they're afraid of the repercussions from random people that you barely know. And who knows? Maybe it'll take off.
All right. Sounds good. So I'm going to end off the recording.
Great.
And we'll talk after the show in 3, 2,